Ultimately, the answer to the question of where are the boys will be answered. It's that they're dead. And at the end of the case, I will ask you to return a verdict of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt as to Trezell and Jacqueline for the murders of Orrin and Orson West.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Zimmer. I am Kern County's district attorney. I have information about Orrin and Orson West, the two young boys who were reported missing from California City 14 months ago. On December 21st of 2020, Orrin was 4 years old and Orson was 3 years old. Their adoptive parents in California City, Trezell West and Jacqueline West, reported to the California City Police Department that the boys had disappeared from their backyard. The California City Police Department began a search for the boys in the area around their home. After a period of time, the FBI joined in the search, as did the California Highway Patrol and search and rescue from the Kern County Sheriff's Department. The community also came out to assist in looking for the boys, but to no avail. They were not located. 1 week later, crucial information came to light that necessitated the involvement of the Bakersfield Police Department and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. Law enforcement worked diligently, hundreds of hours in the next 12 months, looking for the boys. This morning, I'm saddened to announce that the investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased. The investigation has also revealed that they died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing.
How can we confirm that the boys had died 3 months prior to their reported disappearance if bodies haven't been found? Can you kind of explain how that works?
No, I cannot, but I can tell you the facts in court will show that we were able to prove that to the grand jury, that the boys have died, that they were murdered, and we did that through a combination of direct and circumstantial evidence, and the grand jury was convinced that they were dead. Thank you.
One of the things that's very interesting now, the boys are still missing. There are no bodies. Yet these parents are charged with involuntary manslaughter and second-degree murder. How is this possible if there are no bodies?
The fact that law enforcement have not found their bodies does not preclude a murder prosecution. As a matter of fact, there have been many hundreds of what we call no-body homicides prosecuted across the United States successfully, and even no-body homicides have resulted in murder convictions in Kern County.
So it is possible. It is a lot more difficult, though. Typically, in a murder trial, I think Eric Smith said during jury selection last week, he told potential jurors, 99.9% of jury trials, there's a body. You're going to see autopsy photos. You're going to hear from a pathologist talking about how the person died. In this case, you're not going to have that. So it's going to be interesting to see what evidence the prosecution has pointing to the fact that someone was killed and that the Wests were responsible. Involuntary manslaughter to second-degree murder. Both. Why both? The most serious charge is the second-degree murder charge. That carries a penalty of 15 years to life. In that case, that's the example I've heard most often is shooting into a crowded room. It's a reckless disregard for human life. You may not mean to kill somebody, but it's so reckless that you can be charged with murder if someone dies as a result. The involuntary manslaughter is the unintentional killing of someone else. 4 years is the maximum you can face with that. As to why they filed both, I'm not sure. It may be that the evidence doesn't support second degree. They go with the involuntary manslaughter instead.
Orson was in California City for about 4 days. At some point, Adrian heard a loud thud in the night. The day prior to hearing the thud, Orson was there. The day after the loud thud, Orson was gone and he hasn't seen him since.
This was a tragic accident, is what the evidence will show. All right? They don't have an answer for it because it was tragic. but instead Trezell is here on a murder charge. Cal City out the gate just never thought anyone would take two little black boys. That's why the investigation will look the way it did.
This is the last known photo ever taken of Orrin, recovered from the cell phones that were seized in this case. This is the last known photo of Orson, taken in the apartment at Lotus Lane, July 25th, 2020. And then ultimately, sometime in September, they were killed and have not been seen since then.
April 26, 2023. The trial is back in session in the case of Trezell and Jacqueline West, accused in the deaths of adopted children, Classic and Sincere, also known as Orrin 4 and Orson 3. Detective Thomas Hernandez, the lead investigator, is back on the stand. Hernandez has identified swabs he took of Ralph Mosley and some of the other West children. Smith ended his questioning, and defense is going to wait to cross-examine Hernandez because he's going to testify later in the trial. Dechelle Smith has been called to the stand. She works at the Kern Regional Crime Lab. Dechelle Smith said one of her duties is to process known reference samples of DNA. Dechelle Smith is explaining her job and the intricacies of DNA testing to prosecutor Eric Smith. Dechelle processed known reference samples for Trezell and Jacqueline West and some of their children. Alexia Torres-Stallings, lead attorney for Jacqueline West, has begun cross-examination. Dechelle told her they wait until the lab reports are complete before destroying samples. Dechelle has been excused. Mandy Van Buren has been called to the stand. She's the DNA technical leader at the Kern Regional Crime Lab. Prosecutor Eric Smith has displayed a document from LabCorp, a chart showing DNA profiles. Van Buren explained a couple of charts, and Smith has ended his questioning. Torres-Stallings is going to cross-examine her. Van Buren said she has previously testified for this case. Van Buren said there are 24 locations looked for in the testing of a sample. 3 are male markers. Van Buren said for these 2 samples, they only looked at the electronic profile, not an actual swab. It's not common to evaluate an electronic sample, Van Buren said. She has done it fewer than 10 times in 6 years. Van Buren said there's a technical review process that reviews the analysis done by others at the lab. If a profile is partial, the statistics could be affected, she said. Van Buren said she doesn't know if LabCorp has had past issues with the way they maintain DNA storage. Torres-Stallings has ended her questioning. Timothy Hennessy, lead attorney for Trezell West, is questioning her. Van Buren said they did accept certain items where they addressed how certain items were packaged. They didn't reject the items, but only tested certain parts. There were areas of certain items that were uncovered when they received them from California City Police, Van Buren said. They included the gardening tools. Van Buren has been excused. Jeehak Kim has been called to the stand. He's a criminalist at the Kern Regional Crime Lab. Kim is explaining what DNA is and how it can be left behind. The DNA analysis process consists of extraction, breaking open cells in the process. The second is quantification, how much DNA is in the sample. Amplification and fragment analysis are third and fourth steps. Kim testified there are control tests. Samples run alongside the DNA samples to make sure there was no contamination of the sample. They checked to make sure the DNA was amplified correctly. A single source profile means the profile consists of only one person contributing to the DNA profile, Kim said. DNA testing can't tell the circumstances or the time frame in which the DNA was left, Kim said. Touch DNA tends to degrade faster in extreme environments, Kim said. Kim testified testing gardening tools, toothbrushes, and known reference samples in the West case. Smith is displaying photos of items Kim tested. One is a shovel. Kim said he performed a test to screen the shovel for blood. It came up negative. A rake was also tested, and the stains were negative for blood, Kim said. Another shovel was screened, and the stains were negative. A third and fourth shovel were tested, and the stains screened negative, Kim said. A toothbrush was swabbed for DNA, Kim said. The DNA profile he got was a single source from a female, he said. A gray mattress cover was tested. 2 cuttings were taken for DNA analysis, Kim said. The The profile generated was a mixture of two contributors. Jacqueline West and one of the West's other children could not be excluded as contributors, Kim said. Both Orrin and Orson were excluded as potential contributors to the DNA profile, Kim said. Court is in recess for 15 minutes. The trial is back in session with Jeehak Kim resuming testimony. He said he tested a green, red, and blue blanket for DNA analysis. A single-source DNA profile was found, Kim said. Orrin and Orson were excluded as having left the DNA, but another West child could not be excluded, Kim said. A blue mattress cover was tested. A single-source male profile was generated, Kim said. Orrin and Orson West were excluded, but another West child could not be excluded. Another blue mattress cover was tested for DNA, Kim said. 2 stains on the blue mattress cover were tested. For one of the stains, it was inconclusive as to whether Orson could have been a contributor, Kim said. A gray mattress cover was tested. Kim said 3 stains on it were tested. Orrin and Orson were excluded as potential contributors to each of the 3 stains tested, Kim said. A green, white, and brown blanket was tested, Kim said. No stains were tested on that item. A gray mattress cover had 4 stains that were tested, Kim said. Orrin and Orson were excluded. A blue, gray, and white blanket was tested. The 1 stain tested was positive, but no further testing was done because they were focusing on stains found on the mattress covers, Kim said. 1 location on a blue mattress cover was tested for DNA, Kim said. Orrin could not be excluded as a contributor, he said. No stains came up on a blue, green, and white blanket that were tested, Kim said. Swabs from the driver's side rear passenger door interior were tested. Kim said there was not enough evidence to draw a conclusion as to whether Orrin or Orson could be excluded. Swabs from the passenger side rear door interior of the West van were tested. Kim said Orrin and Orson were excluded as potential contributors. The swabs from the rear door interior door handle were tested, Kim said. Orrin and Orson were excluded. Swabs from a car seat were tested. Orrin and Orson were excluded. Kim testified another car seat was swabbed and the swabs tested. Orrin could not be excluded, he said. There wasn't enough evidence to exclude Orson. Court is in recess until 1:30 p.m. The trial is back in session, with Jeehak Kim back on the stand testifying to DNA tests performed on items taken from the West home and in their white van. A car seat from the van was tested. Orrin was excluded as being a contributor to the DNA profile, but Orson could not be excluded, Kim said. Another car seat was tested. Orrin West was excluded as a contributor, but Orson could not be excluded, Kim said. 2 swabs were taken from a stick. Kim testified the stick had a mixture profile from at least 2 people. It was wrapped in black electrical tape. Jacqueline West could not be excluded as a potential contributor, Kim said. Neither could Trezell West and some of the other West children. Orrin and Orson were excluded. A used diaper found in a trash bag was tested. A DNA profile of at least 2 contributors was found. Kim said. Orrin was excluded. There was not enough statistical support to determine if Orrin was a contributor, he said. 2 of the other children could not be excluded, Kim said. Kim is explaining how DNA is extracted from a sample. If there is leftover DNA extracted, it's usually destroyed as long as all the other tests are done, he said. Prosecutor Eric Smith ended his questioning. Alexia Torres-Stallings, lead counsel for Jacqueline West, has begun cross-examination. Kim said the profiles received of Orrin and Orson so they could compare them to DNA samples were electronic DNA profiles. Other samples came from buccal swabs. This is the first time he's used an electronic sample in a case, Kim said. Torres-Stallings has noted the other samples came straight from the source. Kim testified a statistical calculation is given by a DNA profile, showing the likelihood it came from a certain person. Under questioning by Torres-Stallings, Kim said an inconclusive finding means they can't say whether someone is excluded or not. They can't say for sure one way or another. Torres-Stallings has referred to multiple blankets where no DNA testing was performed. Kim agreed, saying no stains were found, so no testing was done. He said they were looking for saliva, urine, and possible blood to test. Torres Stallings asked how else could they have tested the blankets. Kim said they could have performed a blind swab, just swab the entire blanket. They did not do that for those 2 blankets. Moving on to other items, Torres Stallings said one item had 7 stains and 3 were tested. Another item also had 7 stains and 1 was tested for DNA analysis. She asked why they didn't do more. Kim testified they tried to test clusters of stains that tested positive for saliva. Orrin and Orson could not be excluded from certain items in the bedroom, Kim said, meaning it can't be said with certainty whether their DNA was on the items. Kim testified he was not given 2 other toothbrushes to examine, nor was he given toys to examine. Only 1 used diaper was tested, Kim said. The lab does not do fingerprint comparisons, Kim said. The only ability they have with fingerprints is to collect them. No comparisons. Torres Stallings finished. Timothy Hennessy, lead attorney for Trezell West, is now questioning Kim. Kim is testifying to how the testing and analysis helps them determine the odds of a DNA profile being left by someone else. Kim found 1 item had a profile that may have come from a BPD officer on it. He said they try to catch contamination from staff profiles on items they receive. Hennessy ended his questioning. Kim has been excused. Court is in recess for 15 minutes. Judge Charles R. Brimmer said it's highly likely the jury will get the case around May 17th. They're ahead of schedule. Darren Wonderly has been called to the stand. He's an investigator with the DA's office. Wonderly does analysis of call detail records, among other things. Wonderly reviewed phone records in this case. He listed several numbers. Wonderly said he created PowerPoint presentations. One is for Trezell and Jacqueline West, the other for Ralph Mosley and Ryan Dean. Wonderly is pointing out what a call detail record contains, the length of the call, when it began and ended, the numbers involved, etc. Wonderly received both Sprint and T-Mobile records for the numbers. Sprint was taken over by T-Mobile in 2020. The records were in Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, and were adjusted by Wonderly to Pacific Standard Time. The UTC timeline is 8 hours ahead of Pacific Standard Time, Wonderly said. Wonderly said a number for Mosley was reviewed from 7/30/2020 to 10/30/2020. A map shows all the cell towers used for that number during that time period. The same number with the T-Mobile record went into 2021. Wonderly said he was asked to analyze any records in the California City or Eastern Kern area. There were 6 different tower usages in Cal City for Mosley's number on December 23, 2020. That was the only date on the T-Mobile record for Ralph Mosley's number in the Cal City area, Wonderly said. Records were examined from June 30, 2020 into 2021, and December 30, 2020 was the only date his number used cell towers in that area, Wonderly said. That's 2 days after the boys were reported missing. A number associated with Ryan Dean, the boy's biological mother, was examined from July 17, 2020 to March 10, 2021, Wonderly said. Asked to look for usages in Eastern Kern, Wonderly found a tower usage southwest of California City on December 23, 2020, from 11 a.m. to 5:38 p.m. 2 other usages occurred on January 2, 2021, he said. Neither Dean's nor Mosley's numbers used cell towers in the Cal City area on the day the boys were reported missing, according to Wonderly. Wonderly has moved on to call detail records for Trezell and Jacqueline West. For a number associated with Jacqueline West, on September 11, 2020, it was associated with towers in California City around 12:36 p.m. There was a tower usage near Lotus Lane later the same day, Wonderly said. The West lived in an apartment on Lotus Lane before moving to Cal City. A phone call was made late on September 12, 2020, Wonderly said. 10 records were captured on September 13, 2020. On September 14th, multiple towers were used in the Bakersfield area, and on September 15, 2020, there were 3 transactions captured by a tower in Cal City, Wonderly said. On September 16th and 17th, a tower near Lotus Lane captured multiple records, and on September 18th, a tower was used in Cal City in the morning, and later the number was found back in Bakersfield near Lotus Lane. On September 19, 2020, 2 tower usages were found in the morning in Cal City, Wonderly said. At 4:28 p.m., the tower near Lotus Lane was used. 7 tower usages occurred in Cal City on September 20th, from late in the morning to late into the afternoon. For a number associated with Trezell West, on September 11, 2020, it used a tower in Cal City, then later a number near Lotus Lane. On 9/12, there were usages near Lotus Lane. On 9/13, multiple towers were used in the Bakersfield area, some near Lotus Lane, others near Highway 38 and 43, then back to an area north of Lotus Lane. On 9/14, records began at 7:45 a.m. to the evening, and all used a tower near Lotus Lane, and some to an area southwest. On 9/15, a tower in Cal City was used, as were towers between Mojave and Tehachapi. On 9/17, 5 records used the tower near Lotus Lane. There were also usages of a tower on Union Avenue. On 9/18, there were several records captured in the morning in Cal City. Also on 9/18, there were usages near Lotus Lane and for towers to the southwest. On 9/19/2020, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:19 p.m., a tower in Cal City was used. On the same day, from 4:34 p.m. to 8:59 p.m., the tower near Lotus Lane was used. On 9/20, there were more usages in Cal City. For Jacqueline West, on 12/21/20, a tower in the Bakersfield area was used near Potomac Avenue in the early evening and later. There was a 10-minute call late that evening. There were multiple records showing calls between 2 numbers on that day, Wonderly said. Smith ended his questioning. Hennessy is now questioning Wonderly. Hennessy ended and Torres Stallings is cross-examining Wonderly. He said the call detail records reflect phone calls and text messages, nothing else. Wonderly has been excused. Court is in recess and the trial will resume 9 a.m. on Monday.
While the defendants in this case, Trezell and Jacqueline West, are presumed innocent, the securing of a grand jury indictment is a major step in ensuring that there will be justice for Orrin and Orson. This case has tugged at the heartstrings of people in my office and in law enforcement and in this community. It is a horrific tragedy that these precious little boys had to lose their lives. But I want to thank everyone who was involved in this case, the law enforcement officers. It must have been so difficult for them who searched for Orrin and Orson, the community members that came out and helped search, and then the community members that just continue to care about what happened to them.
So now that we're all up to speed as to where we are present day, Let's rewind back a little bit further to when the two on trial first graced us with their appearance. And in my opinion, they lied to us.
We just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. We've felt so helpless. And seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out really means a lot.
So, tell us what happened the night that kids went missing.
From our yard.
It was cold. I was going to make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. We keep them close. So I was playing with chalk. I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. Came back out. I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that didn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see me. So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there, and we wanted to keep searching. But everybody came out in droves, and I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching. And we appreciate it, and nobody ever could tell, we could never talk to anybody. And that was the issue.
We just want to thank everybody.
We really want to thank you guys.
Please, if anybody has seen them, please call, let somebody know.
Call the cops. Call California the City Police Department. Call them and let them know what you've seen, if you see anything. Our boys, they are going to be rambunctious, okay? They are going to be here in this area. And I really would like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if make sure. That's it. Because I don't. Go ahead. I'm sorry. If you got any questions.
Oh no, you're good.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, this is the first time we're hearing from you guys, and I can't imagine what you guys are going through. I can't even fathom it. For you guys, for people who are thinking that there's some kind of foul play involved. We just spoke to the biological mother. She says she had a conversation with you guys, and that she thinks there's some kind of foul play involved, that she thinks you guys did something.
And that's understandable.
What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. And that's all I want is to find our babies. That's it. And I talked to her this morning, and I really wanted to tell her that I am completely sorry because we were entrusted with her children, and they came to us, and they became our children. We named them, and they are our children, and so we want them back. So please, if y'all could get back on what you guys are doing, we should be able to get a hold of somebody, but they took all of our tech, so they wanted to, I guess, just rule us out, which makes sense. That's part of the investigation. So that's pretty much it.
Have you guys, you talked to the police all last night?
Yes.
So you guys willfully gave them your technology?
Yes.
The car?
Yes.
How did they get a search warrant? Did you guys?
I don't see why they got one, but they got one.
Yeah,
we would
they
have let them
didn't
take
need one,
anything.
but-
We would have told them take everything. We let them come in and search with us. We asked them to come do that.
What did they take?
Just tech. And that's it. Like our phones.
From the house, what did they? Should have been out there the first day.
I don't even know.
I see. Yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Again, we were told the best are out here looking already. Just to stay put. They have more questions. And there was literally a cop with us the whole time in there.
He had sitting down. We would ask, can we go help? They had to sit
He
down.
said nope.
He said, no, we got the best out there.
So
we
it's
need
not-
you guys here in case we have more
I don't want
questions.
you guys thinking we
don't.
didn't try. We actually
We
looked
tried.
before we called
We looked,
police.
yes.
And I imagine the mind-boggling part is the search for information. What happened? Where are they?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera.
And
And just so we are able to present the information correctly, at what time did you guys notice your kids went missing? And at what time were they reported missing to the police?
It's about, I believe, I think it was about 4:30, going on 5. It was getting dark, like I said.
5-ish.
5-ish. That's about it. That's when everything played out.
And then when did you guys call the police to report them missing?
After we searched
Yeah.
a little bit around here, it was dark, so we definitely we got worried.
Would you say it was maybe within an hour, a couple hours?
No, it was within minutes of us getting finished up with our search. It was within minutes.
What do you guys want people at home to understand about this situation? For them, even speaking about what you guys are feeling is difficult. What do you want them at home to understand about this whole situation?
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure everything. We're not sure. We said what we knew, and if anybody has seen them, or anything, please call the police department.
Would you be willing to provide pictures, or do you have any?
I have older pictures. All my newest were on my phone.
Okay.
A lot of people are speaking of this as, after the math, past tense. I want to talk about your kids in present tense. What kind of boys are these? Tell us about the boys.
Very playful, very rambunctious, and they do love to wrestle. They do love to kind of get rough with each other.
Kids.
They're kids. Of course, they would love to go out, but so during the pandemic, we wasn't trying to go, out here. And so we stayed inside.
Did you guys ever go out and search?
Yes,
we did. We searched before we called the cops.
That's
That's what we were saying.
What time did they come up missing?
They came missing right before it got dark. Then I searched that property. I even drove around this neighborhood right here. I even talked to a gentleman on that side, one of those streets over there. I said, did you see some little black kids?
You go that way looking for them?
That's the direction I was going to come, but when I came back home, I decided to call the cops because it was dark. They couldn't have got away that fast.
And why did it take 2 people to go in the house and leave 2 kids out here by themselves? It should have been 1 parent going in and 1 parent right here watching the child, not 2 parents going in the house and leaving 2 little kids out here by themselves for 10 minutes.
No, they were in the backyard. And the back gate was open.
Out the backyard?
And the back gate was open, and I was getting wood from this
So you
lot
guys
here.
been irresponsible and left the gate open, left some little kids outside with the gate open.
All right. Sorry. You guys were talking about your boys who you're, I understand. For a mother, a mother's intuition, I know you were saying, and we'll get your names after this, but you were saying how you feel like they're in this area. Do you feel the same way? And what is the intuition? What is the sense you get? What do you think happened to your boys? Do you think someone took them? Do you think they're lost? Do you think...
Yeah, definitely. I definitely know they're not walking around. They're not that kind. They do not just roam around. These patches. I think definitely would have been picked up or something.
That was my assumption.
Have they ever taken off of the yard before?
No.
They've never taken off?
No.
Basically,
You guys are new to Cal City, right?
Yep.
How long have you guys been living here?
3 months. Never even came up.
Do you have any more questions?
It's crazy because y'all say y'all came out looking for the kids and y'all got neighbors that say y'all ain't even came out looking for no kids. The neighbors weren't out here.
We were looking.
We were looking.
I'm just saying, bro, it's crazy, bro. I got kids of my own.
Where do you live?
These little boys that y'all raising, them is my biological family.
I understand, bro.
I don't leave kids
Oh, no,
outside.
And I understand.
I have 9 kids. I have 9 kids.
There's outside in
no
the backyard
way
and I was
I'm
watching
gonna leave my kids unattended. Not even for a minute.
Like, you sit here,
We get that. We get it.
They were in the
We
backyard.
feel
You
it.
don't even look like you worried,
But
bro.
you said the gate.
I've been
Okay, y'all
going
know
through it all day.
y'all finna go inside the house, right? Y'all are foster parents, right?
No.
Okay,
we're
but y'all
adopted
adopted them,
Yeah,
right?
they are
Okay,
children.
shut the gate. Go in the house. Why did it take both of y'all to go in the house and leave them outside by themselves?
I understand.
And y'all know the gate was
Why haven't
open.
y'all been out with the people around this neighborhood looking with the kids?
We already told on
said
camera.
that.
I
We already
see
told
y'all
on
on no cameras last night. I
No.
didn't even see y'all out here praying with them people. Them people was out to take care of my nephew. Not this, that's supposed to happen.
I understand.
Y'all was supposed to take care of my nephew.
I understand.
If anybody's watching at home who knows anything, or if somebody who has these kids, if they're watching, what is your message to them?
The message has always been, as soon as possible, call the California City Police Department, and please bring our babies home. And that's that.
That's one of the reasons why we actually didn't want to do this.
This is the reason why. Because
the Bio families.
we were under orders to stay in the house and stay because they're going to need to contact us, and we cannot go outside, and that was the issue.
We were under orders by the cops to stay home in the house and let the professionals look.
But you just said that they were your children. If they were your children, regardless of what somebody told you, wouldn't you want to go look for them?
Well, we have cops actually posted in the front door right
there.
there.
How cold it is at night? Would you
We
not be
totally understand.
We understand.
If you guys actually have that question, you should ask the police officer.
The situation, but do you see how it seems that the kids was left unattended? You guys went in the house and then the kids disappeared. How did they disappear?
Exactly, and that's the way we try to figure out.
It doesn't make sense. How did they disappear? How did they go out? You guys had the house supervised already, and my question is, why were they the only 2 children out? Where were the rest of the kids?
The rest of the kids were with grandma.
With who?
They left. They went on vacation.
So they didn't?
No, because they're too young. We didn't. We watched them, and it turns out that happened.
How did the
They're older.
Just really quickly before we forget, first and last name, spelling of both for both of you guys.
So, excuse me, say it again.
Just first and last name.
Spelling of who or what?
Or just your first and last name.
Our names.
Trezell West.
Jacqueline
It's Trezell West.
Okay, and for you?
JACQUELINE.
I'm sorry, one more time?
JACQUELINE.
Okay. West?
Yes.
Okay, guys. We'll let you go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No.
She probably wouldn't feel bad. She probably knows.
I'll see you in the comments, beautiful people.